What's up everyone, it's Kovarks here, back on the Kovarks Sports channel, and today we are going to be giving you my top 25 rankings following week 1 going into week 2 for the 2021 college football season. I didn't do a reaction video this week. That's because of the late start to a late ending to week 1, and I also started school this week because I'm obviously not an adult. There's been some other things too. It's just been a crazy week. And so I haven't had the time. So if videos are shorter, not as good, not as frequent this week, that's why. If you want to hear my reactions, make sure to check out my podcast down below because we have a new episode, Brivico and I, going over our reactions to week 1. It'll be coming out within a day or two before week 2 begins over on my podcast channel, so that'll be linked down below. So if you still want to hear my reaction, make sure and go and check that out. It'll be coming out within the next day or two, depending on when this gets uploaded. Next week should be a lot more normal week for the channel for what I'm gonna do during the season. Like I said, it's just been a hectic week, but I still wanted to get my top 25 out there for you guys. And, I mean, this is kind of like a reaction to the season. You could see what I think about these teams. That's all the blabbing. Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off, I'm going to breeze through most of these teams because there's 25. That's quite a bit. Plus, I've got to go over honorable mentions. And like I said, I don't have a lot of time. So if it seems like I'm going fast, that's why. Number 1, Alabama crushed Miami. They look like, in my opinion, the best team in the nation. I haven't seen anyone so far that looks like they can compete with them. We'll have to see how that all goes. Number 2, Georgia, great win over Clemson. There's really no doubt because Ohio State and Oklahoma didn't blow out their teams or their opposition. So then number 3, Ohio State, good win still. They won by 14. They had to come back a little bit there, but they beat Minnesota on the road. Tough place to play. Minnesota may finish the season ranked, so overall pretty good win for the Buckeyes. Number 4, Clemson. I didn't drop Clemson as low because it's hard to judge how good these teams are. Yes, Clemson's offense didn't look great, but I feel like that's just because Georgia's defense is that good, and when Clemson goes up against an average defense, I still think they're going to be able to put up quite a lot of points. In these early week 1 games, you don't really know if it's because Georgia's that good on defense or if Clemson's just not that good on offense. So I kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt and still put them at 4. Plus, on defense, they looked a lot better than Oklahoma, who gave up a ton of points to Tulane in the 4th quarter. Oklahoma scored 23 in the second. They only scored 17 outside of that. Tulane scored nothing in the second quarter. So Tulane outscored Oklahoma outside of the second quarter, 35-17. Tulane had to play on the road, had to face adversity with the hurricane and everything. Oklahoma did not look good. I think they'll get it figured out. I still think Oklahoma's a really good team, but based on that, you can make the case of dropping them out of the top 5. They got lucky at the end. They just made some good plays on that last offensive possession for Tulane. Anyways, that is my top 5. Moving on, I have number 6, Texas A&M. They struggled a little early on. I didn't really watch their Kent State game, but I saw the scores that went along, and they weren't putting up a whole lot of points, but in the end, they won by a pretty good margin. Cincinnati destroys Miami of Ohio. Cincy's a team to watch out for. They proved against a MAC team, it's not like it's some slack lower division team. They play with a good, average, a little bit below average Miami of Ohio team. So I think that's a pretty good win for Cincy, and you got to put some respect on it. I put them ahead of Iowa State, who I had dropping 2 spots. They struggle with Northern Iowa, but Iowa State always struggles. They lost to Louisiana by 17 last year. The year before, they played Northern Iowa also to begin the season, and they won by 3 in triple overtime. Iowa State, I feel like, just always starts the season slow. and they end up being pretty decent in the end, so I still think they looked really good. Notre Dame struggled in the fourth quarter of Florida State. I think Florida State's a pretty good team, so I'm going to give Notre Dame the benefit of the doubt and say that was a pretty good win, and I have them moving up a spot. USC I have going up 9 spots. A lot of that's just because we had a lot of craziness, and my poll is kind of all over the place this week, or it's not a poll, I only consult myself, so it's my rankings, but I had USC shooting up a really impressive win over San Jose State, who I think is a pretty good team. You got to give the Trojans some credit, so I'm going to give them a big boost all the way up to number 10. At number 11, Oregon, they struggled with Fresno State, who is a pretty good team, but I still think this is a top 15 Oregon team. Maybe I should have put Iowa, who's at number 12, ahead of Oregon, but this is just where I put them. Iowa, really impressive win over Indiana. I still think Indiana's probably top 25 team, maybe not top 15 team. I was probably overrating them. But Iowa proved that even if Indiana's just your average 6-6 team, that's a really good win for Iowa. You gotta give them a lot of credit. Could they be making another run at the college football playoff similar to 2016? Who knows? It could be an exciting season for Iowa fans. I'm a Nebraska fan, so that is kind of hard for me to say. But you could have a bright future coming up, Iowa, or it could have completely jinxed it. And if so, I am sorry. I have no words. Number 13 is Penn State. They beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin kind of struggled on the red zone a bit, but still, you're going to Camp Randall. Very, very tough place to play. You got to give a lot of credit to Penn State. So, Penn State, excuse me. I have them going up 9, kind of like USC, a big jump there. I had Iowa going up by 8, so they also had a big jump. Then Florida at number 14, pretty good win over Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic made a lot of mistakes. I didn't watch that game, but from what I've heard, I think the Gators are probably going to be a top 20 team this year. Not a horrible performance against FAU, who I believe is a pretty good group of 5 team. Texas destroyed Louisiana, especially in that second half. I still think Louisiana's a really good team. You got to give a lot of credit to Texas in their first game under a new quarterback and new head coach. They played really well. I think by that performance, honestly, I think they look the best out of any Big 12 team. So I have them at number 15. Obviously, I'm not going to put them ahead of Oklahoma and shoot them up to the top 5 after one game. Plus, Louisiana last year could have been a fluke, so I could be completely overrating them. But Texas, I still think looked really good. Moving on, number 16, Coastal Carolina. They got a pretty good win over, I think, the Citadel, if I'm remembering correctly. Excuse me. Still a pretty good win. This is a pretty good Coastal Carolina team. They'll probably finish the season ranked. Number 17 is Virginia Tech. Big win over North Carolina, who I dropped all the way down to number 18. That was a 9 spot drop for North Carolina. I obviously have to put Virginia Tech ahead of North Carolina. Virginia Tech, I didn't have ranked last week. However, in the offseason, I did predict Virginia Tech to win this game, but I still think North Carolina can rebound. It's one game, very tough place to play. Virginia Tech, I think, is just also a really good team, and I still think North Carolina is better. If North Carolina plays in Chapel Hill, I think they win by a score or 2, but it's the first game back for those Tech fans. Very tough place to play, as we saw. I watched it live. It was a crazy game. It was surprisingly defensive. It looks like North Carolina's going to miss some of those wide receivers, but in the end, Virginia Tech got a pretty good win. Number 19, Wisconsin. They went 0-1, or they are 0-1 after their loss to Penn State. They easily could have won that game. They just struggled in the red zone. Because they're playing at home, I'm a little worried if I'm a Badger fan, but once again, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because it is the first game. I'm going to put them at number 19. Number 20, UCLA, who beat LSU, who I had ranked. UCLA, they are 2-0. Excuse me, I completely botched that. They're 2-0. They got a good win over Hawaii, good win over LSU. I think Chip Kelly's got a legit team. I have them ranked. Maybe I'm pulling the trigger, but I think everyone else is too. If I'm a Bruin fan, I'm excited. This is going to be a fun year, I feel like, for UCLA. Maybe they can make a run at the Pac-12 championship, get some big wins. You never know. Chip Kelly's a good coach, so he could get them somewhere. Then, in our final 5 spots, I have TCU at number 21. I feel like this is a good team. I think they shut out Duquesne 45-0. It may have been 45-3. Good win for them. Arizona State, I didn't have them ranked. They just look pretty good. I didn't actually watch their game all that much, but overall they look pretty good. I think they're a top 25 team now. They look better than Utah, who gave up that kick return touchdown, I believe, on the first play of the game against Weber State. But after the delay where the Wildcats were up 7-3, Utah came back and they ended up winning 40-17. Still, they made some mistakes, but it's the first game. They still got a 23-point win. Ole Miss dominated Louisville. I think that's good enough. I know Louisville isn't that great, but I was kind of thinking in the offseason Ole Miss could be pretty good, and this kind of speaks to that. So, kind of like TCU, I'm pulling the trigger. I'm going to let them go up. And then, rounding out the top 25, I know Miami got destroyed by Alabama, but I just think Alabama's that good. I still think Miami is a top 25 team. Once again, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'll put the Hurricanes at number 25. Now let's go ahead and look at the honorable mentions. We have a lot this week, so LSU would be my next up. They had to deal with the hurricane, played on the road, all that stuff. I'm still going to give a little bit of an edge to LSU over some of these other teams. Kansas State, I have next. They had a dominating win over Stanford. Michigan, they had a very impressive win over what I think to be a pretty good Western Michigan team, so they could possibly be ranked. Auburn had a good win over Akron. Because they're a toss-up team and they did so well in their season opener, I think the AP poll put them at number 25, so they could be pretty good. Indiana, I know they got blown out, but it's a tough place to play. I think Iowa could really just be that good. And, I mean, I still think they're an 8-4, 9-3 team. Maybe I'm still overrating this team. I'm not quite sure, but they return quite a bit like Michael Penix, so we'll have to see. NC State dominated Southern Florida. Plus, they were pretty good last year, so I thought I'd mention them. Tulane, Florida State, and Minnesota played well up against tough opponents. Tulane had to play on the road. Tulane was the most impressive, so I put them up there. Louisiana struggled, but maybe Texas is just that good. These final 4 teams, they just look decent enough to be an honorable mention, not to be ranked, but I've seen some places ranking Tulane, so you never know. Tulane, I feel like probably will finish the season ranked. I think they're a pretty good team, but at the end of the day, they had no business competing with Oklahoma, so it's week 1. We can't jump to conclusions. I feel like week 2 is going to tell us a lot about these teams. I feel like 3 weeks, though, is when we really start to understand, like, more of what these teams are made of. These teams that competed in week 1, was that a fluke for Tulane? I think we'll find out by the end of week 3. The teams I dropped out, number 12, Indiana. I had them so high up, but I just can't rank them after losing by 28 points. I know it was on the road, but it's a little hypocritical because I still think they're good, but I dropped them way back. Still, I think they're an honorable mention, but you can't really rank them at the same time. LSU I obviously dropped, but they're right up there. I almost put them in instead of Miami. You can really flip-flop those two if you want. Number 17, Washington, they're not even an honorable mention to me. They lost to Montana. I know Montana's a pretty good FCS team, a really good FCS team actually. I think they're number 9 in the FCS, but Washington should not have lost to Montana. You just can't, you just can't even mention them. I was really high on Washington. I had them going 10-2. I did not think they'd be 0-1. I had them ranked at number 17, so it was clear that I was really high on them to start the season, and they disappointed me, and I'm sure Husky fans are very disappointed as well. Number 18, Louisiana. I can't really rank them after they lost by 20 to Texas. Kind of like Indiana, I think they're still an honorable mention, but they're not good enough to be ranked still after a bad loss like that. That is my top 25. I think we went a little bit longer than my goal of like 10 or 15 minutes, but either way, I can't see the time, so it could be really short for all I know. Either way, I want to thank you all very much for watching this video. If you want to hear more about my reactions within the next day or two, my new podcast episode will be coming out. Make sure to click the link down below. Thank you once again all for watching this video, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye.